Yo, what is up guys, Gl4sc4nn0n here, back bringing you another Borderlands 3 video. Now, I tested out numerous builds for Fl4k over the weekend, had some personal issues to take care of, and now I'm uploading this build video a little different compared to the others. The reason for this is that I've had a lot of trouble when playing not only this build, but any build for Fl4k in the slaughter shaft. I tried mixing in a few of the survivability skills from the master skill tree, but the health regeneration you get and the max damage your pet can take is just laughable in my opinion. So I ultimately decided to go full damage from your action skill and was hoping the damage alone would do the trick. I ended up melting everything and everywhere, bosses, badasses, you name it, but as soon as I entered the slaughter shaft I was struggling. This is also the main issue I have and why I don't enjoy playing Fl4k as much as the others. He is just a literal glass cannon. Of course it can be fun to melt bosses like the Gl4sc4nn0n in seconds, which I will show you at the end of the video with this build, but I'm not enjoying to go down as often as I do with Fl4k sometimes. I don't want to scare off any Fl4k fans, I'm not saying he's bad, and you could even argue this is because of my playstyle or the weapon I use and I should just play more cautiously, but I tried literally everything and nothing seemed to be working as good as the Amara and Zane build for the slaughter shaft. That being said, I still wanted to upload this build because for everything else it just works, and it works pretty damn good. So I'm also going to show some gameplay of me clearing Athenas within a few minutes, and again, if you enjoyed this video, found it at least a little helpful or informative, please leave a like since it would help me out so much. Subscribe for more content from me in the future, and I will try to upload at least every second day from now on. I have to apologize for the lack of uploading for those who are waiting for it, but without further ado, let's jump right into the video. As you can see, the build that I'm using seems to be a pretty standard Fl4k build with a few minor differences, but let me try to explain why this is the only build you need when playing with Fl4k. The best thing in my opinion is the variety you can have with this build. Since it relies almost solely on damage, you can take almost everything in terms of gear and make it usable. Therefore, and to get the maximum damage out of everything, you want to spend as much time as you can in your fadeaway action skill. But this is not just for damage important, also as a way of survivability. With your increased movement speed, you can position yourself somewhere relatively safe, regenerate health while doing so and not be targeted for the entire duration, and then kill the most dangerous enemies within seconds. With fadeaway, you will always get increased movement speed by 25%, 3% health regeneration of your maximum health per second, a cooldown of 15 seconds, and every shot you land will be a critical hit. For the critical hit damage, you have two options. You can either go with plus 200% critical hit damage, a skill duration of 15 seconds and only 3 shots to fire, or 25% critical hit damage, a skill duration of only 5 seconds, but as many shots as you can possibly fire during that time with the Gorillas in the Mist action skill augment. Even though most people tend to go with this augment, you can still have a lot of fun with slow firing but high critical hit damage weapons, like the Unforgiven for example. For this build though, I was using the augment myself most of the time because it is generally better for most situations and most weapons. The reduced critical hit damage is also not that big of a problem, combined with the other augment Unblinking Eye that gives you plus 75% critical hit damage when hitting the same target multiple times, up to 225% until it resets. You can also get plus 5% critical hit damage and movement speed when choosing the Gunslinger Jabber, and what's so great about the fadeaway action skill is that every bonus you get when using it can be further enhanced by your skills, so there's great synergy overall with this character. Starting with the Stalker skill tree, I went with 5 points to the Hunter skill Furious Attack, where you will get 1 stack every time you shoot and hit an enemy, up to 10 stacks in total. When going with this skill alone, you can get up to plus 20% gun damage and plus 48% handling for 5 seconds. Jumping over to the Hunter skill tree, with the Big Game skill, you can even increase the effect of it by 30% and the duration by 100%, giving you a generous 8 seconds for Furious Attack to last, plus 26% gun damage and plus 62% handling. Staying in the Hunter tree for a moment, there's another Hunter skill I went with, which is the Interplanetary Stalker, that also acts like a kill skill. With this and Big Game, you can get up to 3 stacks, granting you a damage bonus of plus 39% after killing just 3 enemies. Additionally, depending on what enemy you killed, you can get even more bonuses on top, meaning you can get up to plus 58.5% action skill damage after killing 3 human enemies, almost 30% increased corrosive damage for killing 3 robots, and 27% increased movement speed when killing 3 beasts. These stacks will decay after time, not sure how long exactly it takes for them to completely decay, but I can tell you it lasts long enough for an entire encounter on every map. Staying in the Hunter skill tree, I choose to go with Hunter's Eye for increased bonuses against any type of enemy. For example, plus 15% critical hit damage against humans, plus 30% armor damage against robots, and plus 21.9% damage reduction against beasts. The reason why I went with build, this is not only because the damage boost and damage reduction is nice, but Fl4k has also a class mod called Bounty Hunter that can apply these bonuses to bosses. So you can switch to the class mod before every boss fight to deal even more damage against them. I will now go over all the skills that give you damage bonuses, since they are pretty straightforward, and then I will give you the exact percentage number for increased damage you can get in total with this build, and it is pretty crazy. Let's go over the Stalker skill tree first. There's Turn Tail and Run, that not only gives you plus 25% gun damage and plus 12% fire rate while standing still, but also additional damage reduction and 0.9% health regen of your max health per second. Next up is Hidden Machine to give you plus 30% damage against enemies who are not targeting Fl4k, which while in Fadeaway will always be the case and works great in co-op as well. The Fast and the Furious grants you plus 25% gun damage and plus 10% movement speed as long as Fl4k's health is at least half full. Every time you activate Fadeaway, Fl4k and their pet gain increased damage of 50% when your health is full and 25% when your health is not full for 15 seconds. So this stays active even for a short while after your action skill ends. Like I said, what is important for this build is to stay in your Fadeaway as long and as often as possible, and after Gearbox patched the duration of Guerrillas in the Mist down from 8 seconds to 5 seconds, you definitely want to go with Persistence Hunter in the master skill tree to increase the duration back up to a little over 7 seconds. A nice bonus for the skill is the plus 12% gun damage you get when speccing 3 points into it, because it's not already enough damage apparently. To sum it up, you can get an insane plus 207% damage increase, and that is without even counting the additional bonuses against certain types of enemies from Interplanetary Stalker and Hunter's Eye. Now obviously there are a lot of things that have to work together in order for you to get the maximum bonus of plus 207% damage, but let me go over the last few skills that are important first before I show you the ways to maximize the chances for the maximum damage bonus. Two of the most important skills are Head Count from the Hunter skill tree and Eager to Impress in the Stalker skill tree. Remember how I told you how important it is to stay in Fadeaway as much as possible, to have it available as often as possible? You want to reduce the cooldown as much as possible. With those two skills you now have a chance of 30% to reduce the cooldown by 2 seconds on every critical hit, and a guaranteed cooldown reduction by 1.25 seconds when Fl4k kills an enemy, or 2.5 seconds when your pet kills an enemy, but if your pet isn't currently down somewhere, it is only good for the plus 5% critical hit damage and movement speed, so don't get your hopes up. One of the last two skills I chose were Overclock for an increased fire rate, but really I just chose this to get down further in the Stalker skill tree and thought that the increased health regeneration at max health wasn't really worth it, and you don't need a cooldown reduction on something you don't use anyway. When it comes to the famous Leave No Trace skill in the Hunter skill tree, I would only suggest going for it when obviously using anything other than weapons that return ammo and critical hits anyway, or when you have a class mod that boosts this skill. I found that the 36% chance with a 0.3 second cooldown is not really worth getting, but if you are like me and want to use a weapon like the Butcher with its ability to have a chance to refill your magazine with a random amount after every shot, get a class mod with at least plus 2 points for Leave No Trace to increase the chance to at least 60%. If you don't have such a class mod, just fast travel to a location where a health station is nearby and reload into the game until one of them is available to buy. It should be a health station from a late game stage, since there seems to be a higher chance of purple rarity class mods to pop up. I heard that there can even be a class mod that increases this skill by 4, so make sure to look out for that. Going over the gear, I honestly had the most fun using a Butcher and the Lyuda for some bosses and felt like I don't need anything else. But like I said, there are so many other weapons viable for this build and fun to use that I would suggest going with the Lyuda or even a Cutsman for some bigger bosses like the Gl4sc4nn0n for example, and experiment with all the other guns that works best for you in your opinion or is the most fun you had. But the most fun for me were the Butcher, the Lucian's Core, the Rowan's Call, the Duke, which are all world drops and can drop from any lootable source in the game, and the Becker, which is obtainable after completing every legendary hunt challenge from Sir Hammerlock, and the King's or Queen's Core, which you can get by killing Tyreen the Destroyer. Like I said, I went with the class mod that boosts Leave No Trace and even the Fast and the Furious for me, but if you have a weapon where this is not necessary or don't like Leave No Trace in general, a Cosmic Stalker class mod to increase your hunt skill power by 25% is great as well, and as mentioned before, you can always switch to a Bounty Hunter class mod when fighting bosses. I would suggest going for a Victory Rush artifact for increased damage and movement speed after killing a badass, any grenade that you like since this is not really important for this build, and for the shield I found the Transformer, Recharger or Stopgap to be the best. The Transformer is always a great option, especially when using a shock weapon and getting the Mayhem Mayhem mod where your enemies have a 30% chance to reflect bullets back at you, since it is 100% shock resistant and constantly refills your shield when receiving shock damage. It also has a 40% chance to absorb bullets and add them to your ammo count, which is always nice to have, especially when playing with shotguns or sniper rifles with low ammo counts in general. The stopgap makes you immune to damage when it breaks for 5 seconds to keep your health up for the increased damage from the Fast and the Furious and the power inside, and the recharger serves the same purpose, but instead of being immune for 5 seconds after breaking, it will instantly refill your shields to maximum capacity with a 20-second cooldown. To be honest, I preferred the stopgap, but I think that it comes down to personal preference. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this build. I hope I didn't offend any Fl4k mains with this video. I definitely don't think that he is a bad character to play with. I just personally don't like glass cannons in video games as much. I still had a lot of fun playing with him and this build solo, and even more fun when playing co-op with my friends, since Fl4k, Amara and Zane work so well together. Fl4k has a lot of synergies with the skill trees and can even increase his damage by so much when Gearbox increases the level cap for more skill points. I even think the Gamma Burst and Drag Attack can be fun to play with. I just wish that your pet wasn't so useless sometimes. I hope you enjoyed this video and this build. Make sure to leave a comment and a like if you did, and maybe even tell me why you didn't like it. Only one Vault Hunter to go with most for these build videos, but I'm sure there'll be more build videos and a lot more other content in the future. So subscribe if you don't want to miss out on that, and thank everyone for watching. See you in my next video.
Outrun, outlast. Yes, to the bloodletting!